So you're known as, is it the boy in the pink kayak? Is that correct?
Pretty much. I mean, that's, I basically made that my bio when, because it's in 2013 in December, I got back from an expedition in Mexico and I had sold my boat there, and a big waterfall I'd always wanted to run was coming in the next day, and it was midnight and the factory was closed, so not like I had the chance to order. At the time, I only wanted orange boats, and I had to pick up a kayak, so I had to choose between green or pink. And after thinking about it and calling a few friends, I was like, what should I do? I ended up grabbing the pink boat, and the next day I realized that not only the pink was pretty cool, but also the waterfall, all the footage also looked really good. And then my brother-in-law was like, you should just use pink more. And I was like, I don't know. And then he convinced me to take a pink boat to Africa. And then from there, I was like, I really like having pink boats. And it was cool because over the last 8 years, you see any footage of someone in a pink boat, it's more than likely me. So it's just kind of a fun thing that I have. Yeah.
Makes it memorable.
Yeah.
Makes you stand out.
Yeah. I was already wearing pink watches before that,
oh,
so
yeah?
pink was already kind of creeping its way in. And then now it's like all my kayaks are pink, and it's just a lot. Yeah, it's just fun having that kind of like signature. Even if it's a photo from far away, it looks great, but you kind of know it's me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Grace Family Pharmacy announces new medication packaging service. It provides a simpler, safer medication experience through convenient, personalized packaging using the latest in pharmacy robotics. We're located at 357 West Main Street. Our phone number is 931-473-6418.
McMinnville, you're a great place to be. McMinnville, Tennessee.
The My Usage app is a way to conveniently pay online, anytime, day or night. You can also come by any Caney Fork Electric office and sign up for the prepay option available using the My Usage app. Know exactly how much electricity is used each day and the cost. Best of all, no monthly bill. You can set up email or text alerts, keep track of your usage, and pay your bill, all with the My Usage app from Caney Fork. Caney Fork Electric, keeping you informed.
Communitytvtn is brought to you by Security Federal Savings Bank, proudly serving the community we call home. From the small towns in our community to the big hearts in our own back door. This is their stories. This is a part of their life shared with you.
Dane dropping in to the feature, wing over, linked into McNasty. So many points right off the bat. Looking for that lunar loop. He is off to a very strong start. Looking for that lunar orbit to the right. Kenny linking into cartwheels, just one in, but right into the tricky woo to the right. He is still in the feature, linking it to some more cartwheels, to a McNasty. He stays retained in the feature, still scoring points. Right to the McNasty, the Phonics monkey to the right. Looking for that huge aerial loop. Dane going for the left lunar, linking it into cartwheels, trying to get those link bonus. He still has 10 seconds, 8 seconds. Space Godzilla, one more trick. Space Godzilla on the buzzer. One more. Dane, 1650. That was it. He moved in to the first medal position.
Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Community Insider. We're at the home of Eric Jackson, and here is his son, Dane Jackson. So tell us about yourself.
Well, I am a professional whitewater kayaker, which means I basically travel around the world in the U.S. and just anywhere that kayaking seemed good at the time. Just run waterfalls, big water, freestyle competitions, make videos, shoot photos, just basically anything that gets me outside, but my whole life based around doing whitewater kayaking.
Okay, so tell us about growing up here in Rock Island, Tennessee.
So I was born in Washington, D.C., and then when I was 4 years old, I moved into an RV full-time with my family. We traveled basically the 6 years just completely out of an RV, traveling wherever my dad wanted to go kayaking or the family wanted to go. But one of the places that we loved going growing up was Tennessee, because it's just such an amazing spot for kayaking, but especially in the fall, it's one of the most beautiful spots. But then when it comes to the winter, it's great because we don't really get snow. So if it rains, we can go kayaking. It's 60 degrees out right now. It doesn't get very cold. It's such a great spot to spend time. And so growing up here, it's just such a great spot to come back and have a home base and spend the holidays. And of course, there's great waterfalls and great kayaking all over Tennessee.
Well, unfortunately, we're about to find out that my dad can do a trick that I can't. Alright, see if I can do that.
So I not only do a lot of traveling for kayaking for waterfalls, big water and things like that, but a big core part of growing up and my kayaking today is competitions, especially because, my whole family is very competitive, but my dad also loved competitions, so we grew up going to basically any competition that involved kayaking. And one of the competitions is the Freestyle World Championship, which happens every 2 years. And my dad has won 4 of them, and I've been fortunate enough to win 4 at this point as well, because the last one in Nottingham, England was an incredible experience to go over there. And I actually got sick leading up to it. I had COVID leading up to the event, so I actually missed all my training for the event. I actually got my first day of training the day before the event. And when I get to a world championship, I'm always going to train as hard as I can and do the best I can, and whatever happens, I'm still going to have a great time. But when it came to that situation, there were people there that had been training there for a few years that lived there. And considering I had very little training, I was just kind of ready for anything. So to be able to still be able to win despite that little bit of training, it was an incredible experience. And that ended up being my 4th senior men win for freestyle championship. I mean, I'm tied with my dad at the moment, which is a lot of fun. And yeah, really looking forward to the next one now.
Once I started kayaking my own way, inventing my own stuff, using my own techniques, that's when my career really took off. I'm a 4-time world champion, Olympian, and I've been on the U.S. kayak team for over 27 years.
So what was it like seeing your son take on the family tradition, I guess as I would call it here?
Well, we were getting used to it at this stage. He wins just about everything he competes in, which is super cool. And my son-in-law paddled really well also, and my daughter Emily also paddled really well. So having the whole family compete, not only are we there having fun, having dinners together and hanging out and training together, but so we're there as a family, but then each one individually is trying to do the best they can. So that environment it's super fun to be in, because we're there for, all of us have a purpose of being there and what we're trying to accomplish. And then at the same time, we just get to hang out as a family too.
Yeah. So what have y'all experienced over this course of a year that led up to that moment?
Leading up to the World Championships, I think we all have different schedules, all have different things going on, especially that time of the year. Sometimes we end up at the same events. But for the most part, everyone was just trying to find their time to get on the water beforehand. For myself, I had a competition the week before, so the weekend before, so I didn't in Idaho, so I didn't really have the opportunity in the first place to get much training. But then when I got there, I got sick with COVID, so I actually quarantined leading up to the event, so I got even less training than I would have normally liked to got. So I'm pretty fired up that I still was able to pull out a win. But yeah, we all were just training at Colorado events and just getting on the water when we could, and then all kind of regrouped at Nottingham and able to hang out.
Awesome. So many of you that may not know who Eric Jackson is, he first started Jackson Kayak, and now he has a new company. Is that correct?
That's true. Apex Watercrafts. It's my new adventure. Jackson Kayak is still alive and well in Sparta, Tennessee, and Apex Watercraft right here in Rock Island.
Awesome. So how long have you been doing Apex Watercraft?
Since January 2020, which basically means 2020 was kind of a wash. I got a lot done, but not that much done because of the COVID thing. 2021, I started getting things rolling. 2022, we're getting boats actually starting to get made. And 2023, people will actually be able to buy them.
Awesome. So Apex, what does that actually mean?
Apex, it's a scientific term. It basically means the very top. It's not an opinion, it's a scientific fact. But I'm finally getting in a good place where we've got, we'll be delivering a bunch of boats to customers for this season, in February and March this year. and the world now has available lightweight carbon fiber whitewater and fishing kayaks. So that's very exciting.
That's awesome. So
Thanks.
if someone out there watching wants to buy an Apex watercraft, where can they find you?
So, we've got dealers around. So Caney Fork Outfitters will carry our boats in Silver Point. You can email me directly, Eric at Apex Watercraft, and depending on where you're at, I can direct you to either your local dealer, and if there's no dealers in the area, you can also get it direct from Apex.
Do you have a website?
We do. ApexWatercraft.com is where you go check stuff out. And
Awesome.
yeah, and then obviously we got our Facebook page and Instagram and stuff. I end up posting more just on my personal pages. So if you look up Eric Jackson, you can find out what's going on. I guess my first Dagger kayak I designed was a slalom boat called the Hotlanta. But then my first general purpose whitewater kayak was at Wavesport, the Wavesport X. It really got my design career started. So that's when I decided I'm just going to continue designing the boats that I want to paddle, and then that led into eventually Jackson Kayak and being able to do it there, and then now at Apex. So yeah, the Wavesport was my first real design, where I was responsible for the brand.
So tell me more about the fun one that you designed for Dane.
That one was, so the fun one is a kid's kayak, and it was made for 30 to 80 pound kids. Dane was 44 pounds at the time. So prior to the fun one, there weren't any boats that were designed for kids that were available. With that said, Upstream Edge in Canada made a little boat called the Puddle Jumper that was really small, like a little slalom boat that both my kids had. But it wasn't really appropriate for normal whitewater kayaking, the type of stuff we wanted to do. And I designed one at Wavesport, the Ace 2.1, but the then CEO didn't want to put it in production because, well, no kids kayak and we'll never sell very many of these or whatever. And I decided that was one of my cues that it was time to go start my own thing. So I started Jackson, and I asked all 80 dealers that I planned on having if I should start a whitewater company and if they would sell kids boats. And all 80 of them said, no, we don't need another whitewater kayak company, and no, there's no market for kids boats. So I did it anyway.
Every story has a beginning. At Jackson Kayak, ours began with kids kayaks, and so did mine. Being able to start in a kayak design with kids in mind made all the difference for me. In the past 15 years, most of the top paddlers have a similar story that begins with the fun one. Watching kids progress and learn at an early age in gear that actually fits them gets me really excited for the next generation of paddlers. The question is, what stories will they tell?
Get your first ender in a combat role, and then you finish your day with a lot of accomplishment in your day, and then to people it should be like a dream come true, a dream full of achievement.
Check in with your local dealer, let the adventures begin.
Anyway, and 78 of the 80 dealers sold Jackson the first year, and only 2 of them didn't. They both regretted it. But the fun one actually did really well. Our first thing was Spring Splash at Nanahail Outdoor Center, spring of 2004, and we had 21 of them. and we had to list all the serial numbers, and by the end of the weekend, all 21 were sold. So we proved that kids' kayaks have a place in the marketplace, and that parents wanted, it's just really buying pool toys for their kids in hopes that their kids might one day paddle is really what they are. Which, when you think of it that way, it's, anyway, the fun one was very, very helpful, and it was also very helpful for Dane to be a good kayaker, because it'd be like wanting to be a good snowboarder, and the only thing you have to snowboard on is a toboggan. It's like, well, you're never going to learn to snowboard with that thing, and that's basically how kayaks were at the time for kids.
So how old was Dane whenever he first got into a kayak?
How old?
Yeah.
He was 2. I mean, when he was a baby, I would paddle him around on my lap. But when he was 2, he had a puddle jumper, a little kayak, and Emily also. Dane really liked it though, and would go anytime he had the opportunity. He ran his first Class 3 rapid right before his 3rd birthday. It was Little Falls of the Potomac. And it was an interesting trip, but anyway, he's the only time he's ever cried with me on the river is when I told him that he's not allowed to run a rapid.
Oh no!
Where Emily would cry every time I asked her to run a rapid.
Oh no!
So it was like the same but different.
Yeah.
I suppose you remember when we went to the Zambezi and you got to practice paddling blind, so we wanted to take Lonnie Bedwell, our blind kayaker, down the Zambezi for the first time, and you were the guinea pig to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, that was actually one of the more scary things, because obviously the Zambezi is plenty big, but because you have a reference of, I actually have run the river, I know what it looks like. Being blindfolded, floating into a rapid, and you think you're facing forward, and then you tell me that I'm facing backwards, and I have to turn around, and then in my head I'm backwards, and then the weird feeling of the rapid then hitting, that was actually incredibly intimidating. And I'm glad that Lonnie crushed it way better than I did.
Yeah, this guy, Lonnie Bedwell is literally a blind kayaker, and he wanted to run the Zambezi, which the thought of that is just very scary. And my job was to lead him down the rapids, and I've never led a blind kayaker down the rapids, so I figured I would practice. So Dane volunteered, more or less, I'll do it. Or Dane,
it's a strong word.
Hey, Dane, can you do this? Can you wear a blindfold, and I'll try to coach you through the rapids? And the way
probably helped that he actually can hear, because being deaf, you had to yell a little louder.
Yeah, it was pretty classic watching. Dane, very impressive that he actually did it. Put his blindfold on. I'm like, Dane, over here. Where are you going? Dane, you're backwards. No. Lean downstream. Blah blah blah. And it was total disaster. I couldn't even get him into the middle of the river. Never mind down the rapid forever. Eventually, it worked, but it was I don't think I can lead this guy down. But then, of course, Lonnie Bedwell showed up and said, no, that's not how you do it. All you do is paddle and yell, on me, and I'm just going to follow your voice the whole way. It was Dane and I didn't think about that. But anyway, that was...
less is more.
Yeah, that's where we're on the river for the first time. We're both world champion kayakers, and we have no clue what we're doing. And this blind guy was able to teach us something that we didn't know real quick.
How old were you when you first leaped off of a waterfall with your kayak?
The first time I ran a waterfall was actually more of a dam. It was an almost vertical dam in Maryland called anyways, Canal Falls. About 5 years old when I ran that for the first time. That's I kind of have a memory of running that, paddling up to the lip, but that was the first vertical thing I've done. That's 8 feet or something like that. But when I was about 9 years old, the first proper waterfall I ran was this drop here. It's called the Spout at Rock Island. When the dam spilled, it's a perfect 20-footer. I think I was about 9 years old or 10 years old when I ran that for the first time, and then that was definitely one of the first drops I did. But my dad might be able to say otherwise, but I feel that was the first proper waterfall I ran.
Yeah. So running the river with your sister Emily, has she been able to coach you on any of these adventures?
I mean, the cool thing is definitely growing up is that I not only had my dad to paddle with all the time, but having my sister there as well meant that we learned how to roll together on the same day. I learned how to roll when she decided she wanted to learn how to roll, and then having each other to paddle with and progress with. And although there were harder rivers and things like that I maybe wanted to run that she wasn't interested in, we always had each other to paddle with and enjoy the river with. Yeah. And so that was always great. And she, having I mean, she was always ready to be a big sister and give me advice when I could or console me and things like that. So it's, yeah, having both my dad and her growing up was obviously a huge help and a lot of fun.
So would you say that your dad, having the endurance that he has somehow integrated into you into becoming a world champion kayaker?
Yeah, I mean, there's one thing that was easy to learn from my dad was doesn't matter how long you've been doing it or what you're trying to do, you can always keep learning, keep improving, and you know, a kayaking career does not have to be short and go as long as you want, as long as you keep training and paddling. And you know, he dominated for a long time. He's still competing today, and I just love paddling and competing as well. And I definitely, you know, every year I often have good results, but that doesn't mean that I can't keep learning and keep getting better and just hopefully just keep kayaking forever.
Yeah, so you guys have a trick called the McNasty. How long did it take you to learn that trick?
Well, it's just an idea I had here at Rock Island a long time ago, and it wasn't really what I was trying to do. I was trying to do a back air screw in the hole, and I kept going upside down, and my stern kept catching, and it kept looping up. And eventually I was like, I'll just make that the McNasty. And then I got pretty good at it, doing it that way. Then I was in Africa, and I was teaching Jake and Cade, who is one of my top training partners and a world champion kayaker also, how to do it. And then he and I were doing it, and he did it the same way, but he rotated less and just threw it straight over the top. And I was like, let's make that the McNasty. So, and a lot of moves are kind of like that where, you know, you're doing something and then eventually it becomes more refined, and you just kind of decide how you really like to do it, and then you make it a move. Right?
She's very sweet.
She's very sweet, as she is. All of our Dalmatians are super sweet.
Yeah.
They're good partners. They make you feel good about yourself. Like, oh.
So has she went on many of the kayaking trips with you guys?
None yet, not really. No, she's new. She's young and new. She's local, so the whole RV experience is still going to be new to her. This spring she'll get the full deal. But Bodie, our older Dalmatian, to teach her what's up. Yep.
Yeah. She is very sweet. So you were part of it was the East Coast Team Trials. You come out,
okay.
arms blazing, didn't have a paddle in your hand. You were just like, man, you were like a powerhouse.
Oh, you had me at, I remember you from '96 team trials, so it's like, whoa,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was my first competition here. We were getting ready for the hand Worlds on the Ottawa River in Canada, was what the team trials was for. And yeah, that was a super fun event. Hand paddling is a thing that I've always done, and this year at World Cup, I was supposed to do hand paddle on my first ride, and then I chickened out because I really wanted to make the next round, and I hadn't hand paddled in it yet. It was a little bit hard to get to the hole. It was possible to miss it. Then after Dane won World Cup this year, his final ride, he'd already won after his 2 rides. He went and did a hand paddle ride, and so it was good to see that it must be a family tradition.
So he taught you how to hand paddle on the whitewater.
Yeah, obviously we have paddles, and they're you know, and they're very useful and very powerful and good to have. But there are times you might lose a paddle or you break a paddle or things like that. And it's also really fun to do some stuff without a paddle. But one of the key and a big help for me, one of the first things my dad really ever did was, once we learned how to roll, we also had to learn how to hand roll. But then not only that, he would convince us to go into the features like Rock Island Hole without a paddle. Not only is it a lot of fun, and you can do stuff like he mentioned, like at the World Cup, but it's also a very essential part of being a kayaker that not a lot of people learn these days. So it really helps you stay calm. If you do lose your paddle, you know, you're like, oh, I've done this before, I practiced this. So a lot more opportunities to stay in the kayak, whereas a lot of people don't really learn that skill these days. And when they lose their paddle, they often panic, which result in them usually swimming out of the kayak. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to do it, and I'm a great skill. I'm glad he taught me.
Absolutely. Who taught you?
I learned a hand roll in '79. I was a swimmer, and I don't know, I learned to roll and I learned to hand roll the same day. But But in 81, I hurt my back really bad, and I couldn't use a paddle. It was like hurting. But I was a whitewater photographer. I'm on the Kennebec, and every day I have to run the river. So I'd put my ammo box in the back of my kayak, and I would hand paddle the Kennebec. And I had to catch this one eddy in Whitewasher Rapid. There's like this little eddy with a hole deflecting it. And anyway, that was like nobody thought I could catch it. I'd never catch it. Whatever. I caught it every day. And that became like my thing, like to hand paddle. And I did it for 30 days straight. The whole summer I couldn't use my paddle because it hurt my back. So it occurred to me that you can hand paddle really well and surf all the big holes and stuff. So it just kind of became a thing.
Awesome. So tell us more about Apex Watercraft and where can people find you?
ApexWatercraft.com is where you can find me. Yeah, we're making high-end carbon fiber kayaks. So we make fishing kayak. We make one design called the Tier. It's really simplistic. I call it elegant. It's not a lot of bells and whistles, but it's just a really pure fishing craft, lightweight, runs shallow, great for running in the small creeks and stuff like that. Easy to load, unload, really fast. And then I make whitewater kayaks in carbon fiber, so really lightweight, about half the weight of a plastic boat. So they perform better, they're more fun. Plastic will always have a place because when you're really banging on rocks, the plastic's more durable and more forgiving on banging on rocks a lot. But there's plenty of places like right here at Rock Island that you don't need a plastic boat, so having a lightweight carbon boat is higher performing and more fun, and just something that you can't go to a kayak shop and buy a carbon boat right now. Now there's Apex, you can.
Yeah, so tell me about, have you been actually out on the water with your Apex watercraft yet?
I have. I competed in the World Cup in Apex, and my prototype, the boat is called the Rebound, my freestyle kayak, and I competed in World Championships in a prototype, and then in a almost production with a really cool looking one, I competed in a World Cup. And now I've got a brand new one that I need to do a walkthrough video on. I'm not paddling it till that's my first like full production, like super stiff hull, super like everything about it's like perfect, So I'm pretty fired up on that. So I want to get my video done so I can start paddling that one.
Awesome.
So here's the rundown on the most revolutionary kayak ever crafted. The primary construction of the boat is carbon epoxy foam core with Inegra for reinforcements, the lightest and strongest materials available. The infusion resin process was designed specifically for this boat by Russ and is duplicable time and time again for the flawless outcome. It's custom clear coated and expertly painted to protect the carbon and look great on and off the water. The all-carbon bucket seat takes the best concepts of fighter jet, race car, and Olympic slalom kayak seat designs and provides a performance saddle for all-day comfort and control. It swivels when you do, making casting easier in any direction, and adjusts to trim the boat for different on-water performance characteristics. The piercing bow concept is found in most modern advanced ships and racing subs, and cuts through the water when lifting bows smash into them and slow down. It also prevents water from entering the boat. Scupper holes cause drag, noise, and you lose things in them. We figured out how to eliminate them and keep a dry boat with a clean, fast hull. If you get any water over the bow, it runs straight out the back almost instantly. The full SUP-style planing hull truly skims over the water and everything in it, while providing an incredibly stable platform for standing and fishing. Our own fin system allows for a tailored tracking experience. Varied sizes and positions allow for different performance on the water. You'll notice that there aren't any bungees, straps, or latches. We used neodymium magnets to hold your hatch closed, your tools and lures in place, and even your tackle bag. Nothing to catch your line on. No eyesores on the boat. The natural cork decking is an aesthetic, comfort, and sound dampening material with unsurpassed traction.
Tell me about where people can find you.
You can find me at apexwatercraft.com, Eric at apexwatercraft, and so I'm easy to find. Just go to the website and you'll find me.
Also, are there any local dealers that sell kayaks?
Caney Fork Outfitters is their local one. So Janice and Jewel and they're over in Silver Point. So if you walk in there, they'll have one demo tier fishing kayak right now, but by the spring comes, they'll start having whitewater boats too.
Awesome. We thank you so much for tuning into this edition of Community Insider, and we look forward to seeing you inside your community.